Membership is about one word, and that's what the picture's about. It's about commitment.
Romantic.
I don't know that it's romantic, but it's about commitment. Sometimes there are romantic elements of it. And there are 4 reasons why we do that. Number one is the biblical reason, that when you look at Christ and His commitment to the church, I think there's a good example for us to follow there that we need to be committed as well. The next thing, there's a cultural reason that it's a little bit of an antidote to our society, which I believe is completely what I would call commitment phobic. We live in an age where people are not committed to anything, not to a job, to a marriage, to anything. And so you got to know who's committed. There's the practical reason that it defines who can be counted on. That's really important. Every team's got to have a roster. Every school's got to have an enrollment. Every business has a payroll. Every army an enlistment. And membership defines family for us. And then here's the final thing. It's a personal reason because it fosters both spiritual growth and protection. Now, Christians can grow all the time without being, members of churches, but you see 2 things here. The New Testament places a major emphasis on the need for Christians to grow and identify their spiritual gifts. If they're just kind of floating out there, that's really hard. Now, you can take the little test that you guys will take. However, they need to find a place to plug in and serve with those. And furthermore, this is the other biblical reason, you can't be held accountable when you're not committed to any specific church family. Church discipline does not exist without membership. And I did this was back in the day when I used to preach hour-long sermons, which everybody, including myself, that day is usually not anymore. But if you want to hear my whole spiel on like church discipline, that kind of stuff, we believe in it, and we believe that it should be redemptive. The goal is not to kick people out of the church. The goal is to confront people and say, hey, what's going on? You're not living as a Christian. What are you doing? Let us help you. And you do that at the individual level first. If that doesn't work, you go back with 2 or 3 other people and be like, man, we love you, we're praying for you, you're flipping out, what's going on? If they don't hear you that time, then you have to, get other people involved. And at some point, if they don't turn around, you have to put it before your church and be like, man, we are really concerned about this person because they're not listening to us when we're approaching them in humility and gospel faithfulness. We just can't vouch that they're a Christian anymore. Like what they may be, but man, they're sure not living like it. And for the sake of, the witness of the church, both within and also in the community, man, we can't have this person in good standing membership anymore. We haven't ever had to do that at Crossing, but if we do, we would do it because the gospel and people already think that church is a sham as it is. And so by having Christians living double lives or faith people masquerading as Christians, in addition to being biblically wrong, it's just deplorable in the church moving forward. It gives God haters ammunition to continue to shoot bullets at the church. And so for the sake of the glory of God and the good of the church and the world, we will practice church discipline as we have to. And that's necessarily connected to membership because if somebody's not a member, how do we know whether or not they want us to speak into their life and help them out? There's just no way to do it without the other. So I spend a long time talking about that message, which we'll post on the website and you can hear. But that's kind of the business card version of it. So that's kind of where we're at. And so that's why we do membership. And here's what it entails. It's all about being in. And we just say that because it's easier to remember. First thing is intimacy with God. The people that are members at Crossing, we want to be Christians. And I know that that's kind of a novel idea, but it really matters because of what I said about, just the deal about the witness in the community. But also in the scriptures, people who were members of churches, they were members of God's church with a capital C, not just the local church, but the literal little c. And so we want people to have an ongoing pursuit of intimacy with God that is followed up with baptism. We kind of talked about that before. And also a commitment to grow in one's individual relationship with God through the pursuit of spiritual disciplines. Like we want them to be praying, to be serving, to be reaching out to others. And if not, to get some help, man. We want to come alongside people. We're not about judging people. So it all starts with intimacy with God. Next thing, involvement. We believe that church membership should not be a spectator sport, but it should be a participatory one. And on a minimum level, we believe this means to be faithful on Sunday, actively involved in a community group, and to find some place where you can serve and use your gifts and build up Christ Church. We also strongly encourage these accountability relationships, but we understand, man, gas is $20 a gallon now. People are busy, and probably will be by the time we get out of here. And it's just like some people just can't do it, but we hope that they can. So involvement is key. Next thing, intentionality. We want people to be about sharing their life and their faith with other people, both inside the church and outside the church. That's kind of just another way to say we believe in this community idea. And we also want people, if they don't know how to talk to people about the gospel, they can't give an answer for the hope that's within them, and we want to teach them. And there's a lot of different ways that people do it. Sometimes people are like, they got one of those books like a tract, and they're like, here, let's go through this. Other times people are like, here's my testimony, here's how God changed my life, whatever. There's different ways to do it. And so we want to find what way is right for you. But that's another thing. We want people to be about that. Final thing, we're just real upfront about this. Investing money. And I'll tell you why in just a second. A couple of really neat things about our church. We believe, quite simply, that the church that is investing in you, you should invest in that church. This doesn't just include money. It includes time, talent, opening your home. If you got a home you can open. And we ask people to be generous givers of all their resources and to invest in Crossing. I've preached a number of series on money. You're welcome to download that too. That stuff is already in that. If you want to hear what we're talking about on money. We believe all of our money ultimately belongs to God. And we ask, we're not like people that check people's tax returns, but we hope that people would work toward at least starting at giving what people would call a tithe, which I explain my whole philosophy on tithing and that kind of stuff. I don't think that's like mandated, but I think that it's a good place to start, because if you won't give 10% to your church that's responsible for like teaching you, and I'm thinking about myself here too, teaching our kids, that kind of stuff. If you won't, then I'm kind of like, is this person really about the church, or are they just want to complain and they don't want to give money? Like, what's going on there? So we want to explore that. Or, we have situations all the time where like somebody comes into our church and they're like, well, man, I already committed part of my money to this missionary overseas, and but I understand like why this is important, so let's work on that. And there's some grace there, but we want to like be pointed in that direction. And what we found too is people don't do what is expected; they do what is inspected. Now that doesn't mean we're going to people look there they give 10%, but that means if you make $250,000 a year, and if you drop in a check for like $25 a year, we're probably like, what's going on? But here's what's interesting. I don't know what anybody gives. And I don't want to know what anybody gives, because that's a personal conviction of mine as the lead pastor. Like, I want to be away from the money so that, I'm not tempted, that nobody could ever accuse me of anything, and also so that I wouldn't be afraid to lead our elders to confront somebody just because that guy's a big giver or that woman's a big giver. Because I've heard stories of pastors that get in that situation where they're like, well, I can't talk to them about their sin because do you know how much he gives to the church? And I'm just, man, I do not think that's not a healthy dynamic. That you look that guy or that girl gets a free pass because they're wealthy. I just think that's bad. So I've distanced myself from it, and the only way I ever know if somebody gives is like somebody new will hand me a check, and they hand it to me like where I see the money, and I don't tell them like, hey, you should give me that, because it's like it's too late now because I just saw. But like any money dealings go through Dan and his team. Like that's the way it works. And Dan's in the elder process and will become the elder that is over overall finances. And I try to stay out of it. The other thing too with kind of the 10% is we have found pastoral situations through that. Good example. So you got a family, they're giving faithfully, they're totally committed to the church, and then they just stop giving for like 3 months in a row. Dan goes to that person and finds out the truth is that person lost their job, but they didn't want to tell us because they were, being proud, which is wrong. And when you talk to them about that and be like, man, this is a community where like when something happens to you, we want to help you. And the truth is, like, maybe the church needs to take some of the benevolence money and help you pay your mortgage. So we found pastoral situations from time to time, just like because of people's financial giving. And so that's kind of where we come out with it. And like I said, the current budget is 12% of the money given away, and we want to try to make it where like we're giving away 15. Like that's where we want to go. And so we'll see what God does. So that's kind of what it's about. I'll stop for questions in a moment here. It's about intimacy, involvement, intentionality, and investment. So the process is very simple. The first one is be faithful on Sunday, get involved in a community group, and we hope people just start giving right away because they intuitively know this, and if not, they come to this class and they go, oh, okay, I need to give. Next thing is attend Crossing Essentials. You did it. Good for you. Ask any questions you may have today or later. You can just send an email. Just so you know, the kind of the junk drawer email is info@crossinglouisville.com, and that's the best way to get a hold of us. And then the required documents, one of which we'll quit today. Actually, you may want to do it today, but you may want to not do it today. We'll see how we quit here in a second. But the spiritual gifts inventory, we want to kind of know what your gifts are and kind of how we can best place you in ministry. The connection strategy, I should have deleted that. That's something we're going to do, I think, on a little bit more decentralized level for community groups. We used to have people do that for a year. And then the membership covenant, which I'm not going to go through, but I want you to read at your own convenience. And then, so you do that. You come on Sunday, you get through, or it's okay if you're not through now, you came to this first. It doesn't matter when you do these, you need to do them. And then you schedule an interview. This is Pastor Elder. We actually have changed that since then, too, because the church has grown so rapidly. It's taken too long to meet with all the elders. We're now going to do that for community groups. They've been trained. They've got the questions that we would ask you, which actually will make those questions available to you online, too, so you can see what's coming. It's basically, we want to know that you're a Christian. We want to know, like, kind of your faith journey and kind of how you can minister to other people, and then we kind of go from there. So that's that. And then the final step on the next page is we're about to do this again in just a week or so. So actually, if you're ready to memorize, we could go ahead and get you guys into this. We basically say we have a little meeting after the service with all our members, and we say, hey, these 12 people, these 6 people, these 2 people, they have been through Essentials. They are in a group. They meet the requirements. They've been interviewed. We think they're Christians. We think that they'd be a great part of our church. What do you guys think? And then people vote to either say or earn. And if you don't make it, there's a hole in the floor that opens up, like Veruca Salt and Willy Wonka, and you drop to the floor. Just kidding. If people vote no, then we need to figure out what's going on. But most people vote yes, and so that's it. And then the membership covenant is a couple pages long, just to kind of lay out kind of where we're coming from as a church and where you're coming from. And feel free to read that later and just get back with it. So, all right, let's stop questions on membership or the process of membership.